everyone. I'm going to be really honest with you. I had a moment at the earlier stages of my healing journey after emotional abuse where I remember sitting on my couch and thinking, what is the point of all of this healing, all of this activity, all of these things that I'm doing if I still feel like crap? I was going to therapy every single week. I was journaling consistently. I actually wrote my first memoir, which was healing, but was part of the process. I had done meditation, I had done EMDR treatments, I had done all kinds of things to help myself heal. But there I was, still getting triggered and so freaking exhausted, trying so hard and just feeling like nothing was helping. And so today I'm going to present an episode that is going to be all about like when you're tired of healing, like when you're just like really ready to give up, but you're still not like where you want to be. Because I know a lot of people are in this stage and I want to get real with you. So, thank you for being here. I'm your host, Allison K. Dagny. The Be a Better You podcast is a place that people come to help themselves heal from emotional abuse and trauma and to learn and to grow. And so, this episode specifically is really going to speak the things that not a lot of people want to say out loud. But I'm going to do that for you. And I want you to buckle up and I want you to listen up. And I want this to be a very raw and relatable topic because I see you and I talk to a lot of people who come to me in my 30-minute consultations, people in my DMs, people who message me from this podcast. And I know this is a struggle. So let's dive in. All right. So this phrase, emotional exhaustion, is something that people feel while they're being abused. And then what happens is when you're no longer being abused, you're out of the emotional abusive relationship, you still feel exhausted. Now, if you are someone who has kids, who is dealing with post-separation abuse, who is trying to hold down jobs, trying to make ends meet, someone who is trying to navigate the complexities of life and trying to heal, right? Then it's very clear that you are someone who's probably going to experience exhaustion and emotional exhaustion. Okay. You may be feeling physical exhaustion. You may be feeling mental exhaustion. You may be feeling emotional exhaustion as well. And this is really hard because how can we make space for the real true healing work when we're totally overwhelmed? So I want you to just think about how maybe you could be aware of your patterns, aware of the things that are exhausting you, but still living them. So the things that I just described, right, are creating exhaustion, mental, physical, or emotional for you, but they keep repeating and they keep happening. Okay, so this is a reality for a lot of people, especially after you've been through trauma and you've been through abuse. And then this is the kicker here. That continues. And for a lot of people, it's because it is the norm. It's because it feels familiar. Even though consciously you might be saying, well, I don't want to be exhausted. I don't want to be dealing with this. I want to have peace in my life, right? I get that. Now, if this is the first time you're tuning into my episode for this podcast, I just want to tell you, and if you're not, I just want to remind you that the subconscious mind is in control of 95%. So even if you consciously are saying, I want to feel peace, I want to be happy, I don't want to be exhausted, right? If you are saying those things, that's the 5%. So the reality is we got to figure out what's happening on a subconscious level before we can change anything. This is why I do the work that I do. This is why I bring these things to this podcast, to help you be aware. Because if you're repeating these patterns, these things that are creating exhaustion in your life, and you're still living them, there is a good reason for it. And that is because of your programming. Okay? Now, if you are healing, like doing the things like how I was doing, and journaling and listening to YouTube videos and following the accounts on Instagram and Facebook and joining online communities in different groups and things like that, and maybe other things like therapy and all that stuff, right? Well, eventually what happens for a lot of people is that you start building up resentment towards healing. You start feeling like, oh, it's just one other thing I have to do. It's just one more task I've got to add to the list, right? You already have things that are priorities for you. You have to hold down a job so that you can pay your bills and feed your family. You have got to maintain relationships with people. You have responsibilities that you have to take care of. Maybe you have pets that you have to deal with, right? And so sometimes, for some people, resentment starts to build when the healing becomes like a chore or something you have to do, like a performance. And so this adds to a level of exhaustion and overwhelm, because it's like, oh my God, I already have all these things I have to do. And oh, now I got to go do my journaling. Oh, now I got to go to therapy this week. Or oh, now I got to, watch this video or whatever, right? So for some people, it can actually you can start to dislike the healing process because it is adding to the feeling of exhaustion that you're already experiencing. Now, you may even, like, this is kind of related to this, but like, you might hear a podcast episode. You might see a quote as you're scrolling and roll your eyes because you're like, I've heard this before. I've seen this before. This is the same old stuff, right? And that adds to your level of frustration, overwhelm, and exhaustion. Because for a lot of us, we're, searching for answers. We are looking for the tools to help us heal. We want something to relieve the pain and suffering inside of us. And so often these repetitive things that we keep hearing, the messages that we see about narcissism and emotional abuse and what you have to do, like, it's like, I roll because I've already heard this. I already know this. Like, tell me something I don't know. And that can, again, add to your frustrations and your exhaustion. Now, for a lot of people as well, you might feel like you've made some progress and you're not like totally falling apart, or that you're not as easily triggered maybe as that you once were a while ago. And this is like considering maybe that you've been out of the relationship for a while or out away from the abuser for a while. Now, if you're just hearing this and you're just out, this probably wouldn't apply to you. But you may also feel like you're definitely still at the mercy of those old stories, those old criticisms. You don't feel that freedom. You don't feel that peace because you may still get anxiety attacks. You may still get triggered by hearing a song on the radio, or your kids tell you something, or you see a post online, or whatever that might be. So you might be kind of teetering on that, like, I'm exhausted. I have been trying all the things. I'm not like totally falling apart, but I'm not really free either. So if you're tired of holding it all together, right? Because that's what you've had to do for so long. You're tired of, talking about these things. You're tired of hearing about these things. You're tired of pretending you're so strong and resilient. I hear that word all the time. You're so resilient. When inside yourself, you just want to lay down and not feel anything at all. You just want to take the blanket and put it over your head and literally just go to sleep. I get this. I understand the level of exhaustion because I have been there and I have felt it. And like I said, in the beginning of this episode, it was like, what is the point? I keep doing all this stuff and I just feel like absolute garbage. Nothing is changing, right? And this is the kind of overhanging theme of emotional exhaustion after abuse. It's interesting because I remember thinking, oh my gosh, my life is going to be amazing after I get out of this relationship. I'm not going to have to deal with my ex anymore. He can't tell me what to do. He's not going to be criticizing me. And in some ways, yes, that is true, right? Like I wasn't at the mercy of him in real time. But there were these leftover traumas, these old stories, these programs that I had embedded in my subconscious mind that wouldn't let me fully heal until I reprogrammed those things, until I stopped just trying to cope with the things and doing all the things and becoming completely just bogged down and exhausted, just tired. And I remember this feeling very well. Now, there is something I wanted to bring to your attention that maybe you're consciously aware of or maybe you're not. But you get out of your emotionally abusive relationship, you start doing healing work, you start trying to put forth effort to help yourself, claw out of that darkness, claw out of the swamp, right? You're taking action. You're hearing this podcast, so I know that you're doing the hard work. But there's a trap to this. And what happens at some point for most survivors of abuse is that you start thinking things like, I should be over this by now. Or if I was truly healed or if I was healing, I wouldn't get triggered. Or why do I feel worse now than I did 6 months ago? Some people maybe even think it's harder now. I should just go back to that life. Like some people actually have felt that way. I don't know if you have, but I've heard people say it would just be easier if I went back because it's so hard. But the trap is when women start judging themselves for not doing it faster or better. And all of this self-judgment and self-criticism is actually rooted in the subconscious mind, like how I should be, what I should be doing, where I should be on my healing journey. Like all these things just create this pressure and the stress, and it adds to the exhaustion, right? Think about if you're just kind of going along doing your own thing and somebody comes along and says, you need to be doing this faster, you need to be doing this better, you should be further along right now than you are right now, right? That judgment, that pressure, that's heavy. That will exhaust you, okay? But you're doing it to yourself if you get into this trap. And here's what I want you to know. This is something that I learned, that not every season of your life is meant to be, what word do I want to use here? Not every season is meant to be in motion. Let's just use that, because I don't want to say productive, because rest is productive, right? So like not all of your healing journey is meant to be like full speed ahead, I guess. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. So sometimes the deepest parts of your healing are when you slow down, when you stop pushing, when you stop giving yourself that kind of pressure, when you stop trying to quote unquote fix yourself, or because I'm broken, I need to change something, right? No, right? It's when you actually just let yourself be. It's when you take the time to be present. It's when you let go of all of that pressure that's self-imposed, like creating it, exhaustion stuff. Now, part of this is, again, because of your programming. Maybe you grew up in a household where there was a lot of pressure to perform. There was a lot of pressure to be good, to be better, to work hard, like all those things. Those are old stories. Those are old programs that you have been carrying that could be contributing to that emotional exhaustion. Okay? Now, let me just give you an analogy about, what's really going on, like why you actually feel so exhausted. It's not just because you have so much on your plate. It's because your nervous system is dysregulated and it's tired of always being on. Okay? So if you have been in survival mode for a really long time, like chronic freeze, chronic fight, flight, or fawn, whatever that is, right? It's like flipping a switch on or off, right? Like, let's use a dimmer switch analogy. So it's like if you turn that dimmer switch all the way up, right? That's your nervous system in like on high alert. But there are different levels, right? And you can turn the dial down a little bit at a time or completely off, right? But yours has been bright and shiny the whole time, like on the highest setting that it can be, like always. So that light is just blaring, okay? And it makes sense that when you're trying to do your healing work, that it feels so hard, that it feels so challenging, like this immense effort that you have to put forth because your nervous system is already on the highest setting, okay? It'd be different if you were very calm and you were regulated and then you were doing healing work, right? And it would make it a lot easier. So your brain is actually wired to resist what is unfamiliar, what is unknown. Like that's scary. Our brains want what is familiar. And so healing, especially when your nervous system is dysregulated, is scary. It is unknown. It is more to add to your plate even, right? So it would be like if you were trying to clean your house while you have a bunch of kids coming over. Like, let's say you just invited, 30 kids to come into your house and you're trying to clean. I mean, you could probably imagine, like you're doing the best you can. You're picking up after the kids. You're putting the toys away and they just keep pulling them back out, right? So it makes a lot of sense that it would be way easier and better for you if you just waited until those kids could leave to clean your house, right? But often what we're doing is we're trying to clean the house with a house full of kids who are making a mess. So you're not doing it wrong, okay? I don't want you to think you're doing it wrong. You're just healing, trying to heal, doing all the things, taking action in real time while you're still trying to hold everything together. And that is a lot. That's a lot for anyone, right? I mean, think about people who don't have to heal from trauma, who are already, juggling a lot in their lives. They have a lot of responsibilities. They have, kids and family and events and stressful jobs and pets and chores, right? It's stressful enough for them. Now add in your healing, your trauma, your emotional abuse on top of it. That is a heavy, heavy burden, okay? And I just want you to know that I see you and I know what you're going through because I've gone through it myself. Now, the one thing I know about being emotionally exhausted and overwhelmed is that when you are in this space, you want to give up. And I'm here to tell you that is not an option. Giving up is not an option when it comes to your life, your healing, your soul. That is not an option, okay? If you're feeling sad, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling like it's pointless, if you're feeling like I can't do it alone, if you're feeling any of these things, I want you to understand something very, very important. You may need to slow down. You may need to take the rest. You may need to put a pause on that community that you're in. You may need to not go out with friends. You may need to take a spa day. You may need to shut down your social media for a while, whatever that is, okay? That is okay. That is okay. But fully giving up is not okay. And here's what I tell people a lot. Give yourself a time frame. Give yourself, okay, I'm going to feel sad, depressed, upset, angry, whatever it is. You decide how much time you're going to give yourself to feel that. If it's 5 minutes, fine. If it's 5 hours, fine. If it's 5 days, fine. What is reasonable to you? You decide and you make the decision. And then you have to pull yourself out of there. This emotional exhaustion happens a lot when we've like hit a wall. Like we've been doing all the things, we're spinning our wheels, nothing is changing, nothing is happening, and then we get depressed, or then we get to the point where we just want to crawl in bed and not come out. Okay? I get it. Believe me, I do. And here's the thing. You were doing all the things, but if they weren't working, weren't changing anything, it wasn't improving your life in any way, that creates a disconnect. It causes you to become extremely tired. And truly, what you need is to honor your feelings. Okay? So if you are feeling emotionally exhausted, tired, like you can't do it, you want to give up, tell yourself the time frame. Set a timer on your watch. Put an event on your calendar to say, hey, it's time to snap out of this, whatever it is, okay? Give yourself that freedom to do that, and then tell yourself, I'm going to feel it, and then I'm going to get out of it. Now, the best way to do that is with action. You have to do something. You have to move your body. You have to push yourself through, and you cannot go around. You cannot stuff it. You cannot ignore it. You have to go through it. And I know that's scary and you probably don't want to hear that, but this comes from my trauma-informed background. This comes from my subconscious training, and it also comes from my lived experience. You need softness. You need to honor how you feel. And when you're emotionally exhausted and overwhelmed, you need to move. And I'm not just telling you this because it's some like fluff strategy. It's actually real. Getting yourself up and going for a walk. Getting yourself out of bed and moving to the living room. Like whatever that you have to do to physically move yourself. Okay? Because if you don't, your brain starts to validate your state of being, and it feels safe to stay there. And then what happens is it reaffirms what you're doing, that you aren't moving, that you aren't changing, that you are just stagnant. And then your brain goes, okay, this feels good, this feels safe, and this is my new habit, and this is my new pattern, and I'm just going to be here in it. That's why I think it's so important to give yourself a time, whether that's 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, whatever that is. You can honor your feelings, and you should, but you can't stay there forever. And emotional exhaustion and overwhelm is no different, right? And you might be like, well, how the heck do I move out of emotional exhaustion and overwhelm? I just need to have my life be easier. I get it. I just need to not have so many things happening in my life. I just need to have my ex quit being an asshole. I just need to have, things. I just need a break. I just need something to go my way. Believe me, I've heard this from so many people, and I have felt it too. If you are feeling this way, I've already given you the tip to set the time frame and move your body. But the other thing that you have to do is put your situation into perspective and prioritize what is actually relevant to your life. If the most important thing in your life right now is your safety, how are you going to achieve that? Prioritize that. If the most important thing is making sure you have your bills paid, then your job is going to be of utmost priority, right? So when I've had clients who've experienced exhaustion and overwhelm, we break down the most important things first. Because often we think we have way more on our plate than we truly do. We create the chaos in our own minds, not consciously, unconsciously, believing that everything has to be done now. Everything is an emergency. It's all important right now. And that is just not the case. And I know this because if you've ever experienced like the death of a loved one, everything else stops. You don't worry about anything else except for what needs to happen right then. The support of the people who are living, the arrangements, the gatherings, that kind of stuff. I just recently went through this. We had a tragedy in my boyfriend's family, and everything else just was not a priority. Like, that is the priority. And so what I'm telling you is you are intelligent enough to know what is the most important thing. It doesn't all have to be done now. Those are, again, programs and stories that are causing you to feel like it all has to be done now, and it just doesn't. If you need help with this, help with prioritizing these things, ask a friend. Like, what do you think? Like, here's what I have going on. Like, where should I start? What's the number one thing, right? If you have a task of like a list of like 50 things, you can't tackle every single thing at one time. It's impossible. One thing at a time. What is the low-hanging fruit? What is the number one thing that you need to do? And then do that, right? Some people get into these paralysis states like because of overwhelm, because it's like there's too much. I don't even know where to begin. So like if you've ever thought, oh, I'm going to organize a cabinet or a closet, and you open it and it's just like bursting at the seams. It's like, I don't even know where to begin. And you just shut the door and you don't want to look at it, right? That's the freeze. That's the paralysis. But if you just pull one thing out and say, okay, where does this go? Do I want to keep it? Do I want to throw it away? Do I want to donate it? Well, where does it belong? One thing. That's it. You start with one, okay? So when there's this emotional exhaustion, this overwhelm, there's a lot of things you can do when it comes to your healing specifically as well. You know, are you taking on too much? Are you saying, oh, I have this yoga class and I have to watch this video, and so sent me this Instagram reel I gotta look at. I have this book on order. Like, are you trying to do too much? Are you trying to do too much? Let's prioritize those things, okay? Now, if you're listening to this and you're nodding and you're like, oh my gosh, this is me, and if you're tired of healing but you still don't feel healed, I want to tell you something that no one else probably is saying. That it makes sense that you're tired. It doesn't mean that you're lazy. It doesn't mean that you're failing. It means you are human. And if anybody else is telling you something else, just tell them to call me and I will set them straight. This is not about laziness. This is not about failing or an inability to achieve or anything like that. We got to take this stuff bite size, right? Little bits, baby steps at a time. I would never throw someone into the deep end of a pool if they didn't know how to swim. That would be insane. And I don't think that when you look at your healing journey that you should be doing that either. You should not be trying to take on every little thing. What is the most important? What's going to get you furthest, the fastest? Okay? That's what we need to look at. Now, I have my 30-minute free consultations available to you. If you want to talk to me, I'm happy to hold space for you. If you want a place to just unload what you've been carrying, you can do that with me. I do this all the time for people. I will listen to your story. I can help you understand why you feel stuck and what your next step could actually be. I have lots of tools. I have a community. I have courses. I have one-on-one support. I have Voxer support. I have a lot of things. And sometimes on these calls, I tell people, I think you would benefit most from this because you're looking for community you're looking for that support, the community is going to be the best place to start, not my one-on-one program, right? I'm not just going to tell you something just to tell you. What would that do? That wouldn't do anything. I'm going to tell you what I think would be the most helpful for you on your journey as far as the things that I can provide to you. It's not a pressure kind of call in any way. I don't subscribe to pushy sales or coercion because, let's face it, we've probably all dealt with that in our emotionally abusive relationships, and I am just not about that. So if this is something that you're feeling like, oh, yes, I need that space, I need to talk to somebody, I need to unload, and I need some guidance, I'm happy to hold that space for you. There is a link in the show notes here on this podcast episode, or you can go directly to my website at www.radiaterise.com. And if you scroll down, you'll see a place to schedule your free 30-minute consultation. And I'd be honored to talk with you and sit with you and listen to you. I have a very deep desire to help women out of the darkness after trauma and abuse. And because I was once there and I didn't have somebody to guide me, I don't want you to feel like you have to go it alone. My mission on this planet is to help you see the possibilities that are right there available to you. And sometimes we can't see it because we're in the dark. Thanks again for being here, and I'll talk to you guys next week.